Every second, every minute, man, I swear that she can get it. Saying if you a bad bitch, put your hands up high. Hands up high. Hands up high. Tell them turn the lights down right now. Put me in the mood. I'm talking about dark room, perfume. Go, go.
I recognize your fragrance. Hold up, you ain't never gotta say shit. And I know your taste is a little bit high maintenance. Everybody else basic. You live life on an everyday basis with poetic justice. Poetic justice. If I told you that a flower bloomed in a dark room, would you trust it? I mean, I write poems in these songs dedicated to you. And you're in the mood for empathy. There's blood in my pen. Better yet, with your friends and them. I really wanna know you all. I really wanna show you off. Fuck God, pour up plenty of champagne. Cold nights when you curse this name. You called up your girlfriends and your girl in that little bitty range. I heard that she wanna go and party. She wanna go and party. Nigga, don't approach her with that Atari. Nigga, that ain't looking home is sorry. They say conversation through the nation. I can tell, but I could never right my wrongs unless I write it down for real. P.S. You can get it, you can get it, you can get it.
just know you, so confess for the truth. I'm so anxious just to feel the silence. It's so quiet, but I hear you. Say it to me, baby. Say our time will make enough time. The times you wasn't really waking up. Now you feel it, I couldn't let you touch. I need you, I need you. Need to distance myself from you. I was just alone with you. So confused with you. Won't you? Can I tell you something for what it's worth? We had that time. Take you, show you something, give you more than what we had that time. Please be don't just be nothing to me. What you do to me, yeah. Please be don't just be nothing to me. What you do to me,
Every second, every minute, man, I swear that she can get it. Saying if you a bad bitch, put your hands up high. Hands up high, hands up high. Tell them dim the lights down right now. Put me in the mood. I'm talking about dark perfume. Go.
I recognize your fragrance. Hold up, you ain't never gotta say shit. And I know your taste is a little bit high maintenance. Everybody else basic. You live life on an everyday basis with poetic justice. Poetic justice. If I told you that a flower bloomed in a dark room, would you trust it? I mean, I write poems in these songs dedicated to you and you're in the mood for empathy. There's blood in my pen. Better yet with your friends and them. I really wanna know you all. I really wanna show you off. Fuck God, pour up plenty of champagne. Cold nights when you curse this name. You called up your girlfriends and your girl in that little bitty range. I heard that she wanna go and party. She wanna go and party. Nigga don't approach your whip that a target. Nigga that ain't good game home is sorry. They say conversation ruin a nation. I can tell, but I could never right my wrongs unless I write it down for real. P.S. You can get it, you can get it, you can get it.
Whole team shining stars, big dip, get a lot of hashtag gang in the city.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Holiday weekend is over and we're back. How y'all doing? Y'all make sure y'all double tap the screen.
What? Who is this nigga? What, I couldn't find him nowhere. Who is this nigga? Well, I see
Right.
Thanksgiving
It's not a
Eve.
whole lot out there. Yeah, it was Thanksgiving Eve 2023, actually. He actually went to court on the 20th of this year. It's not like a normal us covering the trial type thing because I can't find the entire trial on Court TV or anywhere else. But Court TV has like the opening statements. It has the daughter testifying, the son testifying, and some other stuff. Just some clips. It's not gonna
Did
be a
you
long
check?
live, y'all. It's not gonna be an extra.
Did you check the local stations where it happened to see if they did it like how Memphis be doing with certain trials?
I saw some local coverage on it on local stations, but I did not see the entire trial anywhere. Like I didn't see it.
Figure out
Well,
what
you can.
city it happened in and see. Go to
It was
that
in
local news
Pensacola.
station. It
It
was
was in
who?
Pensacola,
Let me
Pensacola,
see.
Florida.
Pensacola.
Yeah, I'm gonna read y'all the article that was put out right before he went to trial to give you kind of like a backstory on what happened. And then after reading that article, we're gonna watch unless Trey finds something else, we're gonna watch the clips from Court TV, and then I'll give you the summary of what happened because there was a verdict and all that stuff, and we'll get into that. But yeah, I just thought this was interesting to cover because it did happen like Thanksgiving Eve in 2023. Then he went to court around about 2 years to the day, 2025. Um, and yeah, the circumstances surrounding what happened, it's kind of weird. You do, Miss B? I never heard of it until now. Well, last week when I actually ran across it is when the first time I heard about it. And I looked and I looked, I couldn't find, and I saw it on Court TV. Like this, what I'm about to play y'all is where I saw it at, and I hadn't seen it nowhere else. But I'm sure Trey will come up with something. He going. But happy Monday, y'all. Thank y'all for being here. I appreciate it. We took a little break from court. Celebrate the holiday. Now we're back. Okay, so now we're back on this channel. I appreciate y'all that support this channel. Make sure y'all double tap that screen to like the live stream, and we're gonna get into it. We will be. This is just a 1 day thing with this one. We're going to be getting into something else on tomorrow. Um, and yeah, like I said, we're back. So let me read this article real quick so y'all can kind of get a backstory. I can't go back to jail. Man led his children to slain wife before running off with murder weapon. Deputies say. All right. His name is Daryl Walker. That's the dude's name. A murder suspect allegedly called his daughter. Hold on, y'all. Let me pull up. Because I think Thornberry, actually. Let me pull up my chat. Mm. Oh. All right, so a murder suspect allegedly called his daughter after murdering his wife, showed the daughter and her brother the victim's body, and then suddenly fled the home, sparking a now completed manhunt. Now, this article was released back in 2023 on the 29th, right after it happened. I can't go back to jail, said the defendant, Daryl Jerome Walker, 36, according to an arrest affidavit. Walker is no stranger to hand.
Oh no, I found a opening arguments one. I see the ones you see. I found one that says opening arguments from a regular channel. It's somebody's person's channel.
Oh yeah, I got that. I got that from Court TV. The opening statements. We gonna see the opening statements, the closing statements, and a little in between, and
I
also
don't
the
see
verdict.
opening statements on. Okay, yes I do. It's 12 minutes and 56 seconds. Well, this particular live got 39 minutes of it. I see the Court TV got 12.
So what you saying? You don't think the court TV one is the entire thing?
It's not. Can't be. Opening statements from both sides in 12 minutes.
Who's the channel? What's the channel name? Oh, you see me. Hold on.
B-Ness with no miss. They got 40 views. You ain't got nothing to worry about. Let's see. They might have a whole goddamn trial.
The trial's not long. I'm telling you, the trial lasted like this court TV. She's giving commentary. That's why it's long.
Oh, okay. Are you sure?
She got the same court.
I didn't scan through it to see if she gave commentary or not. I just saw how long it was.
She got the court TV clip that I got, and she's giving commentary. I'm listening to it right now. That's why it's long.
Never mind her then. Because it be some channels that are just stream it. I ain't there, so she talking whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, so Walker is no stranger to Florida prisons. You know what irritates my soul, y'all, is when we get these repeat offenders that slowly but surely escalate. They're in and out of jail, they in and out of prison, and they just keep committing crimes and they keep getting out. You know what I mean? You know how many deaths could have been prevented if they would just lock these motherfuckers up and leave them there and quit letting them out to commit more crimes. That irritates my spirit, but okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree that violent crimes shouldn't get parole or probation. They should have to, I don't care what kind of violent crime it is, you need to sit your ass down there the entire term of your sentence. So maybe when you get out after 30 years, you might think twice before you do whatever violent crime you did.
That's what I'm saying. Cause they just they get out, they keep committing crime, and it be violent crimes, and then ultimately it leads to murder. It's just ridiculous to me. Walker is no stranger to Florida prisons, having served time for separate convictions in a child neglect case and aggravated battery of a pregnant victim. Look at him. Now in the Escambia County Jail, he could well go back to the State Department of Corrections for a second-degree murder and possession of a weapon or ammo by a convicted Florida felon after deputies claim he murdered Sheena Levine, 35. That was his wife, y'all. The father, according to documents, Walker called his daughter Wednesday, November 22nd, just after 5:04 a.m. The father allegedly said that he effed up and told her to get over there. Walker allegedly kept saying she grabbed the gun. The daughter asked if her mother was okay, but he would not answer and instead became quiet, documents stated. The daughter then woke up her younger brother and told him they had to get to their mother's home. The front door was locked when they arrived. Walker opened it after they banged on the door. Their mother was on the ground by the bathroom door covered in blood. Walker allegedly had blood on his clothes and in the affidavit's words down the left side of his arm. He walked over to his wife, stood over her, and reached down to hug her, document stated. During this encounter, Walker allegedly repeated that she had reached for the gun. Well, that wouldn't work for him because he wasn't supposed to be around no gun or in possession of no gun. He was a felon. So that's that. The daughter asked Walker why didn't he call 911, to which he gave her a weird stare and did not respond, deputy stated. Baby, I gotta go. Walker allegedly said after grabbing the gun lying near Levine. I can't go back to jail. He then ran out and disappeared. The daughter said she locked the door behind him so that he would not come back to hurt her and her brother. The siblings did not find a pulse on their mother, who was turning blue. He had been done that. She probably was laying there all night if she was turning blue. Deputies booked Walker into jail on Tuesday. The court scheduled him for arraignment to take place on December 21st. Now, this was back in 2023 when it initially happened. And I just gave y'all that to give y'all kind of like a backstory on what happened. Now let's go to all right, so this is the opening statement, y'all. He went to trial on the 20th. The trial didn't last long at all. Let me make sure I got this screen right.
Conjures up thoughts of family, friends, and food. Today is November the 20th. Almost 2 years ago to the day, November 22nd, 2023, was Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
It's extremely
Around
low.
5 o'clock that morning on Wednesday, shot and killed his wife, Shannon.
Is it? It's so low on their part. Then let me see if that's better.
With her mom on East Road. Now, after he shoots his wife, he doesn't call for help. He doesn't call the police.
Is anyone other than Miss B buffering? Because it's not buffering on my device. And it's low, and that's unfortunate because this is the only like I said, this is the only clips I have of it. QQ said no. Okay. Miss B, go out and come back in. I hope y'all can hear it. I turned it all the way up on my end. I might have to put it on my speaker and
He doesn't call for ambulance. He called his children. He called her children. And he said, I'm quoting, I fucked up. He said it several times. He said, I effed up and she grabbed me up. Well, they're alone. Derek Walker and Daryl Walker Jr., they jump in the car, they drive over to Mom's as fast as they can get there. And when they arrive, the defendant has to unlock the door to let them in. And they find her unconscious, laying in the floor in the hallway, surrounded by blood, naked from the waist down. And he says, I can't go to jail. He picks up the gun out of the floor, got into my life. Law enforcement arrested him a few days later in Marianna. Now, after his arrest, he came back and was interviewed by law enforcement. And we'll have the opportunity to hear what he said about that. And he said that they were arguing. He had told her about some infidelity and she was mad. That Mrs. B went to the room, got a gun, came back out, had a gun, she was upset with him. He said he took the gun, removed the magazine, and was holding it in his hand, the magazine and the gun together in one hand. And while she's mad at him, she was beating on his chest and crying, and he was holding her. He said he was holding her. Arms around her. And as she pushes away, his hands are still behind her head and the gun goes off. And she goes down the door. Now, I have to prove to you two things. One, that the crime was committed, and two, that the defendant was the one who committed the crime. This is not an identity case. Who did it? It's not a question. The issue is whether or not you prove the statement. At the end of the trial, you're going to get something along, but it's going to tell you the different crimes and choices and what the elements are. And you'll have to match the evidence to see if I've proven that case for a reasonable doubt. But I submit to you, the issue you're going to have is whether or not you find this case credible, especially once you match it up with the physical evidence in the case and the testimony of witnesses. Because witnesses' testimony and the physical evidence is not consistent with what the defendant says happened. And I submit to you, based on that, you will be able to confidently find him guilty as a charge.
Thank you, Ms. Shea. Mr. Brown, you may give your opening.
Thank you, Honor. Court Shea.
Good morning.
Been a long time since y'all wrote with pencils. Anyway, the state made a lot of conclusions statements just then. I told you that this is what happened. We're here to find out what happened. We're here to find out what they can prove. The way that the state is going to attempt to prove their case to you is through some photographs, through some videos, and as I stated in jury selection on Monday, some of these things are not going to be very pleasant to see. They're not fun to watch. They're devastating. They're sad. But that's not your role here today. Your role is not to succumb to those emotions. Your role is not to be overwhelmed and burdened by the tragedy that occurred almost 2 years ago. Your role is to be critical. Your role is to be attentive. And I trust you will do both of those things. Your role, as I stated, is to be critical, not reactionary. We talked on Monday about some important legal tenets, and I'm going to go over those again briefly this morning before we get going with the evidentiary portion of the trial. Talk about how the burden is solely on the government at rest at this table. We talked about what reasonable doubt is, but it isn't. I'll tell you now, there's 3 places to find reasonable doubt. It's by the evidence itself. It's by any lack of evidence, which I invite you to pay particular attention to today. And it's by any conflict in evidence. You find reasonable doubt in any of those 3 places. I'm not going to ask you guys to write anything down. You're going to have full notepads by the time this is all said and done. But if you do remember something from my opening statement, is that if the state fails to prove the things that they have said this morning, you must find Mr. Walker not guilty. Not proven equals not guilty. We talked about why the government has the burden. We talked about our founding, and I talked about history, and I talked about why we have these rights, why we all share these rights, the historical context of what the government can do if gone unchecked. We talked about how you are the check, and the checks and balances here this morning. The judge read a statement about Mr. Walker's right to remain silent. And I presume today that he will exercise that fundamental right that we all share as Americans. However, you will hear from Mr. Walker. You will see a recorded interview that he gave shortly after this incident, and you'll get to hear his words. You'll get to hear his side of the story. You'll get to hear the investigator who says there's 2 sides and then there's the truth. That's what we're seeking here today. We talked about the presumption of innocence. We talked about how Mr. Walker is clothed in a cloak of innocence and the government must remove that in order to take away his liberty. And we talked about your role. So let's talk about what he's been charged with. He's been charged with second-degree murder with a firearm. As Ms. Shea stated in jury selection, and as I'll reiterate here, the elements are an unlawful killing, which has happened. The second is that there was an act eminently dangerous to another and evinces a depraved mind regardless of human life. This is subjective intent. They must prove to you Mr. Walker formulated an idea. They must prove to you that there's a general intent to commit this dangerous act, which I submit to you they will be unable to do. And furthermore, they have to prove that the use of a firearm was consistent with the first 3 elements. Now, here's something that unfortunately is a fact that everyone agrees on and is uncontroverted this morning. Ms. Sheena Levine is gone. She's gone. There's no changing that. There's no bringing her back. However, the evidence will show that the other elements are not proven. What I anticipate the evidence will show, and I will use that phrase because what I say is not evidence, what Ms. Shea just said is not evidence. You will find the evidence, you'll see the evidence, you'll come to your own conclusions. But my anticipation of what the evidence will show is that there was an altercation at 12420 Medicine Road that evening. What it will show is that an 8-year marriage and partnership of almost 20 years that was maybe tumultuous at times came to a devastating conclusion when Ms. Sheena Levine retrieved a firearm during a verbal fight. What the evidence will show is that Ms. Levine sustained a gunshot wound from that firearm, and that wound ultimately caused her death. What the evidence will not show is any intent on the part of Mr. Darrell Walker to effectuate that death. I presume that the state will focus on the actions of Mr. Walker, as they just indicated they do so, subsequent to this incident in an attempt to shift focus from the fact that there's a drastic lack of evidence to what actually happened that evening. The evidence will also show that after a preliminary investigation, investigators in the Escambia County Sheriff's Office, they do their best to formulate a tragic accident to fit a narrative. That narrative is going to be presented to you today. You're presented with photographs, videos, reports. You're presented with testimony from multiple people who arrived at the apartment after the gunshot rang out that morning. You'll be presented with a statement from the only person that was present in that apartment when the gunshot rang out, and that's Mr. Darrell Walker. You learn that Mr. Walker admits, as he did to his wife that evening, that he had been stepping out, so to speak, engaging in extramarital affairs, not honoring his vows. You learn that Mr. Walker had been sick, worried he had transacted some sort of sexually transmitted disease. You'll learn and you'll see on the stove that Miss Levine cooked dinner for the couple. Miss Lyric Walker, who you'll hear from, was invited to that dinner. She didn't make it. You'll see that Miss Levine cooked dinner for the couple and was anticipating engaging in some activity with Mr. Walker that night. You learn that Mr. Walker, concerned for his wife, knew he had no choice but to admit his infidelity and come clean. You'll learn how Miss Levine owned multiple firearms. You'll learn that she knew how to use them. She attended a concealed weapons class. She had 2 firearms that were personally owned by her. You'll learn that Miss Levine justifiably angry about the revelations, retrieved a gun, and confronted Mr. Walker. You'll hear that Mr. Walker tried to leave to remove himself from the situation, was prevented by Miss Levine from doing so. You'll get to watch that statement, you'll get to watch that video, it'll be on that big screen right there, and you'll be able to see the sincerity of Mr. Walker as he recounts trying to leave, as he recounts being prevented from doing so, as he recounts trying to do his best to calm her from her anger, her justifiable anger. You learn that she relinquished the firearm after Mr. Walker spoke to her, he removed the magazine, and they embraced. You'll hear from Mr. Walker how she had another bout of anger, how she lashed out again, how she struck Mr. Walker. And you'll hear from a medical examiner who will attest that Mr. Walker's version of events are in fact congruent with her findings during an autopsy after Miss Levine was tragically struck in the head with a single bullet. The state attorney is going to say, oh, concentrate on Mr. Walker's statements because they don't match up. The state attorney will offer you no explanation of why Mr. Walker supposedly did the thing that he did. You'll hear much more about what happened after, but that evidence will show the actions of a terrified and desperate man. The evidence will show that while Mr. Walker made a series of very unfortunate decisions subsequent to the shooting itself was a tragic accident. I trust that you will do your jobs here this morning. I have no doubt of that. I trust that you'll fulfill your obligations as a critical and crucial check to governmental power. And I trust that after being presented with all the evidence, you will vindicate a grieving husband and return a just verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
And thank you so much for being with us this hour. We're getting ready.
All right, y'all. So here's the hold on. That was the opening statements. Okay, so this is the jury is going to see some stuff right here.
For the all-important closing arguments in the murder trial for defendant Darrell Walker, the 38-year-old accused in the 2023 shooting death of his wife, Sheena Levine. According to court documents, Walker called their daughter Lyric around 5 a.m. on the day before Thanksgiving. Lyric telling police that her dad pleaded with her to come to his apartment because he said he had expletive up. She said her dad did not answer her when she asked about her mom, so she woke up her brother and they rushed over to their parents' home. Once they were inside, Lyric told police that they saw her mom on the floor by the bathroom and that her dad had blood on his body and on his clothes. As Lyric Walker and her brother asked their dad what happened, he allegedly grabbed a gun and told them that he couldn't go back to jail and left the apartment. 6 days later, Darrell Walker was arrested. He's now facing a second-degree murder charge as well as a weapons charge. If he's convicted, he could be sentenced to life in prison. Right now, let's take a look back at some key evidence in the case, including his interview with police.
Did you still kind of have a hold of her when the gun went off, or were you completely separated?
Like, who's right? So she like something.
Were your hands behind her head or on her shoulders?
Let me show you.
I keep describing the best hand. Yeah.
Come on, get out.
Like this.
Yeah, I don't know. Just wait.
I bet.
But you know, like,
I got you.
you know what I'm saying?
You're just holding her.
Okay.
I can see. Yeah. So then you got the study.
Yeah, I got the gun and the magazine, like, in my hand, on my phone.
It's all like in the back of her, like right. It was in this area. Okay. I'm just.
And then when you stepped back, you still had the arms around her and said,
It wasn't like a home, like, knocking her in, like, people were born. It was just like I do all that stuff, like, I'm trying to, like, keep her calm, I do all that stuff, man. And then it's just hard, like.
now how did you hold the gun when you had it in the one hand? Was it in the other or?
I got everything like
So
together.
where was the passport like, you got your gloves here? Okay.
I just like, and she goes, like, whoa, like, whoa. She goes,
Was your hand on the trigger at any point, or was it on the outside of the gun?
outside, outside.
And the gun fell after that, or did you still have a hold of the gun? Okay.
All right, so this trial was a quick one. 1 day of testimony, both the state, the defense resting Thursday. Let's revisit some key testimony from a crime scene technician. She went inside the home, found a lot of blood.
State's Exhibit B20.
This is a photograph leading into, this is the bathroom off the hall, and there's a shell casing right here by the door.
B21
This is a mid-range photograph of that same shell casing.
and B22.
This is a close-up with the L scale of that same shell casing. It's a .45 caliber shell casing.
Did you collect this item?
Yes.
B23.
This is suspected blood that we see on the wall there and the washing machine.
B24.
This is that same wall with the blood with an L scale.
B25.
This is the washing machine, just documenting that blood on that washing machine.
26.
This is the opposite wall from the bathroom, just showing again some blood on the door jambs of that bedroom.
27.
This is blood on that wall and door jamb with the L scale.
28.
This is the opposite side of that same door jamb, just the blood that was observed there leading into the bedroom.
29.
This is just a photograph in that bedroom off the hall, looking into the hall.
And the closet in this room is just to the left of your vantage point here?
It is to the left, yes.
B30.
So this is the closet in that same room. And in the top of the closet up here, we discovered 2 empty gun boxes, 9mm Taurus firearms.
B31.
This is just a close-up of the firearm boxes.
B32.
These are those 2 Taurus 9mm empty firearm boxes that were pulled from the closet.
And 33.
This is a photograph just showing the model and serial numbers of both of those firearms.
These are lab photos, correct?
These are lab photos, yes.
B34.
This is a shot from above the decedent, just showing an above shot.
B35.
This is after the decedent was rolled, looking at her nightcap.
36.
This is her nightcap that we discovered this projectile inside.
37.
This is a close-up of the projectile in the nightcap.
38.
This is after I removed the projectile from the nightcap and put into a container in order to collect it.
And you did collect that?
Yes.
39.
This photo was taken in our crime lab. This is a 9mm firearm that was retrieved from our decedent's purse on scene.
40.
This is the nightcap the decedent was wearing. This photo was taken in the lab.
And 41.
This is a photograph of the defect in that nightcap.
Okay, thank you. You had indicated that you collected the shell casing that was by the bathroom door, the live round that was on the kitchen counter, and then the projectile from the nightcap. Is that correct?
Yes.
May I approach the witness?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm handing you one of the marks that exhibits E1, 2, and 3. Are those the 3 items that I just mentioned?
Yes, they
that you
are.
collected? Okay, I'd ask to admit states E1, 2, and 3.
Any objection? Okay, all right, they're admitted, thank you.
There were photographs of blood on the door jambs and the washing machine. Did you note any ridge detail that would be sufficient to send to the latent lab for identification?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And then the projectile that you collected from the nightcap, did you weigh that?
I did.
How much did it weigh?
The projectile weighed 229.64 grains.
Ammunition is measured in grains, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions.
All right, let's get back to Florida now. More testimony is coming up in the Thanksgiving Eve murder trial of Darrell Walker. Now, Walker faces life in prison if convicted of killing his wife, Sheena Levine, back in 2023. Walker called his daughter to the house after the shooting, and when she and her brother got there, they saw their mother on the floor, and their dad told them that he just couldn't go back to jail, and he left. Testimony in the trial actually ended today. Closing arguments are expected tomorrow, but we're catching you up on what you missed right now. The couple's son here is facing cross-examination.
Shay made some mention about going to help clean out a car, I think some rice or something like that, right?
Yeah, sir.
So the night before this happened, your dad was off running errands trying to help your mom clean the car out, I guess?
Nah, I don't know what he was doing. I just know we had to clean out my mama's car.
Right.
Yes,
So it was your mom's car, but he went to go clean it out?
yeah.
Okay, and it was just the rice and just kind of general upkeep, I guess?
Yeah.
All right. You stated a few things that your father said. Also stated that you might have overheard him said, "Don't do this to me." Do you know what he meant by that?
Nah, I ain't never heard of it.
You don't recall
Nah,
indicating they said, "Don't do this to me," addressing your mother?
no.
Okay. Things happen fast in these kinds of situations, unfortunately. Is that fair?
I guess.
Okay. But you did eventually start yelling at your dad, just telling him to leave, right?
After the fact, he kept like just saying at her, looking at my sister, like she crying. Like, like I know she gone, my mom gone, and she just crying. So he was just looking at her before he left. I'm just telling him like just leave, like there ain't nothing you can do.
Ms. Shea made some statements about a firearm that you allegedly saw the night before.
Yeah.
When's the first time you told anyone about seeing the firearm the night before?
Like after the incident happened.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't in an interview with Ms. Shea about a month ago?
All that happened after the incident happened.
So your statement today is that you told someone that you saw this gun the night before?
I ain't tell no one that I saw the gun the night before that day. After the incident, I literally just, a month ago, literally, the incident happened a year and a half, almost going on 2 years before I even got questioned about me even seeing the gun there.
Okay. So just to clarify, I think you just confirmed it. The first time you ever told anybody about seeing the gun the night before was when you talked to Ms. Shea about a month ago?
Yeah, an authority official. That's the first time you telling anyone that.
Do you remember giving a statement to Investigator Ashley Wallace at the East Camden County Sheriff's Office almost immediately succeeding the incident?
You talking about like the day it happened, that morning?
The lady with the tattoos?
I got interviewed that morning, like literally after the incident that day.
All right, so when your memory was the freshest, at no point did you ever mention seeing your father with a gun the night before, did you?
Oh, God, I don't remember.
Those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Redirect.
DJ, a month ago, or it was probably a little more than a month ago, but when we spoke, is that the first time you and I had ever met?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the first time we ever talked about this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The night that before the incident, when your dad showed up with your mom's car, and there was rice in the car,
Yes, ma'am.
did he tell you that he had to clean out the car, or that she told him he had to clean out the car?
He was just like, he had to clean out the car. 'Cause he didn't want to leave no rice in the car. So me and my little brother went with him and cleaned out the car.
Was that the car that she normally drove, or was that the car he normally drove?
She drove. That's her car.
Okay. Does he have a different car?
At that time, no.
Did he usually drive her car without her?
It just depends. Just depends.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
We're heading back to Florida together for the case of a man accused of murdering his wife. Darrell Walker is accused of second-degree murder and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. This is connected to the shooting death of his wife, Sheena Levine, inside of their Pensacola, Florida home. Levine was found dead nearly 2 years ago on the day before Thanksgiving. Let's go in now and take a look at what happened when the couple's children were called to the stand to testify.
Ms. Walker, about she'd accused the defendant of getting a gun from one of his friends, and what did he say about that?
He just said it's none of your business. He never said if he did or not did get the gun from his friend.
He just said it wasn't her business?
Yeah.
Would you say your parents were happily married?
No.
Did they argue a lot?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that like over the course of years, or was it just recent?
No, it was all the time.
Okay. Back on November 22nd of 2023, did you get a call from the defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
About what time, if you remember?
It was around 5.
And what did he say to you?
He said, I effed up. And then he paused. I said, what do you mean you effed up? And he got quiet. He said, she grabbed the gun. I said, what you mean? She grabbed the gun. He said, she grabbed the gun. So I said, let me talk to mama. And, he didn't say nothing. He got quiet. So I hung up on him. And I had called my mom's phone. And my dad answered my mom's phone. My dad never answered my mom's phone. We could be calling, and my mom would be like, hey, your dad was right now. I don't know why he didn't answer my phone. And I knew something was wrong when my dad picked up.
So what did you do at that point?
I woke my brother up and I got in the car and I said, how do we there?
When you got to the house, how did you get in the house?
So you got the top notch and then the lower. So I was twisted on the door, but the top part was locked. So the lower knob, you could twist it. The top part was locked and we began banging on the door. And that's when my dad, he had unlocked the top notch of the door and he had let us in.
Did he say anything to you at that point?
No, ma'am, not at that point. When I was screaming at him, I was like, why didn't you call the police? Why didn't you call 911? He said, man, I can't go to jail. And you see him run over to my mom, hug her over her body and hug her body, and he picked up the firearm in front of her. And as he got the firearm, at this moment, I'm in the kitchen, and I'm still screaming at him. And he just looked. He didn't say anything to me. He just looked. And he ran out, and then I locked the door.
Did you see where he picked up the gun from?
Yes, ma'am. It was in like she was laid over like this. It was in front of her.
And first witness?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to show you, I have marked the station I'm into.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a still shot from the body camera that we just saw.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you mark on here where you picked it up?
Yes, ma'am.
That's to the
Any objection? No. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll look at it and pass it down, I will tell you that any evidence presented in this trial will be back in the jury room for you to review at your own leisure once you retire to deliberate, okay?
Here's my question to you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brown, you may cross-examine. Good morning there.
Good morning.
Talk a little about your brothers and sisters. Pretty much everybody was staying with you for the Thanksgiving break. Is that right?
Yes, so they came over. My brother was with my mom, but for Thanksgiving break, they were with me because we was finna get ready to cook. That was the plan of my mom. And everyone was over my house.
Okay. So to your knowledge, it was only your parents in the house that evening?
Yes, sir.
You know, these things don't really happen in a vacuum, but you actually saw your dad the night before, did you not?
Can you repeat that for
You
me?
saw your dad the night before, right?
Yes, sir.
I guess they went and took TJ, cleaned out a car or something like that?
That's what I was told.
Okay. And that was pretty late, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. You actually, considering everything, thought everything was going pretty good that night, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Went to bed around midnight. I think you finished an English paper, if I remember.
Yeah, I turned in at 11:59 exactly.
I understand the procrastination. So you get a phone call from Dad, right? And you stated one of the things that he repeated was she grabbed the gun, right?
Yes, sir.
I imagine your mind was racing pretty good once you received that phone call.
Yes, sir.
On the way, you didn't really know what was going on, but you called your uncle first.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you didn't call emergency services at this point.
No, sir.
Get to the house, your dad answers the door pretty quick. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you stated to your knowledge that he didn't appear to be drinking or consuming any narcotics or anything like that, right?
No, sir.
Who calls 911 eventually?
My brother, DJ.
That's DJ?
Yes, sir.
You stated that at one point your dad went over and grabbed the gun from your mom.
Yes,
I
sir.
presume his back was towards you?
No.
No? Okay, so you can
You know, this is bad enough that Sheena Levine was murdered, but then her children were roped into seeing the aftermath of the incident in question.
All right, Mr. Brown.
So yeah, I think that's disgusting. Welcome, y'all. Welcome. Make sure y'all double tap that screen to like the live stream. Yeah, I think to be honest, for him to call the kids before he called the cop, like I say, if she was turning blue, according to what they said, she had been passed away way before he called the kids. But my thing is, this is my thing, and y'all let me know if y'all could type in the chat, because I know a lot of y'all working or whatever. But to me, honestly, if it was an accident or she grabbed the gun, and which caused the gun to go off, why? First of all, why wait so long to call anybody, right? Second of all, why not call the cops? Like, to me, it's already like the kids already gonna be traumatized. You pretty much killed their mom, right? But you know, instead of calling the cops, calling the ambulance to at least try to save her life, you wait. Not only do you wait, you call the kids, and not like honestly, like to be honest, like just say for instance, you know, one of us, we accidentally shoot somebody, the gun go off, you shoot. If you're not wrong in the situation, and the situation happened the way you said it happened, your first instinct is to call 911. Because see, not only calling 911 will get the cops there, but calling 911 will get the ambulance there to maybe save this woman's life. But you don't do that. It happens. You say it was an accident. It happens. And you wait. Had to wait. Body don't turn blue as soon as, you know, they're unalive. You don't turn blue, right? You wait. And then you still don't call 911. You call the kids for the kids to come there and discover their mom passed away. Like, that's some evil type shit. I don't get that, but okay, let's listen. It's not much longer on this, y'all. Like I say, the actual trial actually wasn't that long, and this is just clips that Court TV has of the trial. The trial was not aired, to my knowledge, live during the trial, which was, like I say, it started on November the 20th, and I think it may have taken 2 days at the most. And so we're just watching clips of, you know, things that happen. What's up, Trey?
I done found another one while looking for this one.
Another case?
Yeah.
Is it like over or is it starting?
It's starting today. So some nigga he called his wife's job, and was like, he ain't seen her. He had them go to her house and check around and stuff of that nature in the garage. They ain't see nothing. But then later on, her job reported her missing, and then they got his phone, and he was doing a whole bunch of Google searches about killings and things.
Are you talking about that
the crazy looking man?
The Walsh?
Yeah, Al Bundy looking at that nigga. Yeah.
I saw that. I thought about that one.
And I know about this one today. Also, somebody asked, because they couldn't have been talking to me, even though they was under my video. What do you think about the Todd and Candy divorce? And are you going to go live talking about it? Because I'm not. I don't know who Candy. Well, I know Candy, but I don't know, and I definitely don't know who Todd is. So I can't say nothing.
I'll probably talk about it on my channel. I'm not. That's not a court case. I mean,
I know that. It was just I was looking through my comments and I just seen it, so I asked.
Oh wow.
So maybe we'll talk about later. Well, you
Oh,
did
yeah,
a case 30 minutes to an hour.
I've been not on here though, but I've been watching it, and I have an opinion. I have an opinion. I do. Yeah. But with the Walsh thing, what do you think? You think we should dive into that or what? Because I saw it and I thought about it, but then I'm like,
the live is already scheduled, ma'am. I got it paused where I didn't skip through the opening, not the opening statements, but they objections and the judge giving the instructions to the jury. We're going straight into opening statements.
are we're gonna end this one and start another? You got it scheduled on your channel
For 11.
Good job. Good job. I just got one question though. That man don't look like Al Bundy.
He crazy looking. Al had that crazy look. He had the fucked up hair, but he had that crazy look.
Al had that miserable look. Like he just hated the marriage. He hated living. He hated his kids. He hated the dog. Now he didn't have
look.
Well, he didn't. Al didn't have a crazy look. He just had a miserable look. Like life sucks. But okay, let me go and get into this then and finish it so we can dive into that one. All right, here we go, y'all. I think right here is closing arguments, which is the longest part. The longest part of the clips.
You may give your closing, sir. Thank you, Shay. Good morning. I don't have a PowerPoint for you guys, so you're just gonna have to listen to me. This morning, the government's taking an interesting tactic. I'm telling you that physical evidence doesn't match Mr. Walker's story. And you know what else doesn't match? It doesn't match with their story because they don't have one. At no point have they offered you an alternative theory of what happened that evening. At no point have they told you she was standing here, he was standing here. This is when the shot was fired. This is what was said. At no point have they offered you an alternative explanation. Instead, their tactic is to get you to focus on actions that came after the allegations. They want you to focus on the actions of someone that is desperate and terrified, that's scared, and they want to shift your focus to those events because they have no idea what happened in the apartment that night. The burden rests solely on the state, and quite honestly, it's bad form trajectory. And I think I could have at a few different points because the state is attempting to shift the burden to here. The state is attempting to take the burden from their table and tell you if you don't believe them, sustain. The state has a burden. Is a long and short. We talked about a few protections, talked about a few rights, talked about human nature. You said common sense, and I understand that human beings, they want conclusions, they want finality, and oftentimes we often shape our reality to fit those conclusions. This is human nature. This is things that we do, but this is something you have to guard against here this morning. It's not the way things work in criminal court. It's not the way things work in the state of Florida. It's not the way things work when every citizen is provided constitutional protections, and that includes Mr. Walker. Let's talk a bit more about those protections. Mr. Walker has the right to a fair trial by a jury of his peers. When we started this in the beginning, my opening statement, I asked you to be attentive. I've been watching you. You are. I thank you for that. Sincerely, I do. I asked you to be critical. I hope you are. I asked that you hold the government accountable, and I trust that you will. Before we go back to the facts, let's go over one final time some legal principles that are at play here this morning. And we already talked a little bit about arguably the most important one, and that is the burden of proof. The government must prove beyond, to the exclusion, every reasonable doubt, every element of the offense that they've brought for you here today. We talked about how high that standard is. We talked about why. talking about historical context. I'm not going to bore you with that again, but it's important to view it in that context. And it's important because you need to understand how that verb is. It's not a civil case. We're not talking about money. It's not a termination of parental rights. This is beyond the exclusion of every reasonable doubt because we know what's at stake here today. I told you how the state said they're going to prove it to you. They have not proved it to you. And because they have not proved it to you, the verdict must be not guilty. Talked about reasonable doubt, how it can be present in three places, right? Lack of evidence, the conflict of evidence, and the evidence itself. We're going to get to each one of those in turn, but we're going to go through the witnesses first. We also talked about the right to remain silent, the right that we all share, a right that Mr. Walker chose to exercise at this trial, but he didn't take the stand during these proceedings. But you are going to hear from Mr. Walker. You heard from Mr. Walker. You heard from him when he gave a voluntary statement to law enforcement back in November of 2023. When he signed that paperwork and said, I want to talk to you. In that statement, he insists that the events that unfolded that evening amounted to a tragic accident, an assertion that the state has failed to overcome. And quite frankly, the evidence supports Mr. Walker's assertion that he made that morning, afternoon. I stressed in jury selection in my opening statement the importance of the presumption of innocence, that Mr. Walker is to be presumed not guilty until the conclusion of the evidence. Evidence has concluded. And I submit to you that presumption remains and it has become a reality. Mr. Walker is not guilty. The state has failed to prove the allegations. They failed to prove whatever version of events that they want you to believe because they haven't said anything here today about what actually happened. Mr. Walker has. And if it's reasonable, when Mr. Walker says you must find him not guilty. I'm going to go through the witnesses now in the order that the state called them. And once we do that, we're going to talk about the three places that you can find reasonable doubt. Of course, we'll begin with Deputy Long. Deputy Long is the deputy you want showing up. He was professional, he was attentive, he was task-oriented. He had limited recall, but he stresses that both children were not in a great shape of mind. Understandably so. He gathered limited information to pass the scene along to investigations. I want you to watch his body cam, though, not for the dramatic and emotional and sad scenes that are contained in his body camera, but I want you to know that people live different lives. And I want you to hear what Daryl Jr. said, who has done nothing wrong. Mr. Walker stated he was proud that he got his family out of low-income housing. He was proud of where they were. He was proud of how they had come so far to raise their kids right. And what does DJ say when this officer shows up to help? He says, don't shoot me. Don't shoot me. People have different interactions with law enforcement, ladies and gentlemen. They have different feelings towards them. I'm not here to say whether or not they're right or wrong. I'm here to acknowledge it as a reality. So when Ms. Shea says, oh, Mr. Walker should have called law enforcement, you should have done this. Mr. Walker, they want to pretend like Mr. Walker didn't just go through a traumatic experience. And Mr. Walker didn't just see his partner of 20 years, his wife, succumb to a tragic accident. People react differently in stressful situations. And it's exemplified by DJ's statements. She called Lyric Walker next, the oldest daughter.
Really, sir? Really, sir? Because if we were to go by what he stated to those kids off the bat, right off the bat, it had nothing to do with being traumatized by the fact that his wife was laying on the ground bleeding out, because it had everything to do with him not wanting to go back to jail. That's what I got from what he said. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna let it play and we'll talk afterwards. Let me let
It ain't nobody unmuted but her. Now you.
She got a phone call early that morning. She'd just gone to bed. She's finishing an English essay. Finished it right before midnight. She goes to bed and she's awakened to a phone call from her father. And he uses the phrase that he uses throughout both the interview with investigator Wallace to describe the belly. It's like, fucked up. She grabbed the gun. She grabbed the gun. Just give it. He turned to his daughter, who he loves. And it's tragic that Mr. Walker didn't make those decisions that night. It is. But when Lyric shows up, he continues to say the same things. She grabbed the gun. She grabbed the gun. She grabbed the gun. She admits to being understandably panicked, and she said that she flipped out. These are all things Ms. Shea indicated that they have an opportunity to view the evidence, the opportunity to see what happened. They did, but you have to look at what that filter is, the chaotic nature of the situation, the emotional response that human beings have when things like this happen. She tells us that DJ begins to scream. He begins to curse at his father. He tells him to get out. Just get out. And Mr. Walker does. And then we heard from DJ. DJ stated that hours before this incident happened, Ms. Shea, we're gonna talk about the timeline here in a second. DJ didn't get back until, I think, midnight, a little after that. It was late that they were washing this car. He said things were good. Things were good. My dad was fine. Things were good. He gave primarily the same testimony as Lyric in regards to their observations, and he stated that the only thing he regretted was letting him walk out the door despite his actions of demanding that he do so. I feel bad for these kids, I really do. They had to go through something that no one should have to go through, but the state has the obligation. You can't let the emotions interject into what the facts are, and that is a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to do, but it's your job and it's your role here today. I'm not casting doubt on what DJ thinks he saw, heard, remembers, but I do want to remind you that it was the defense that had to elicit that DJ removed a gun from the scene. Now, the testimony is that it was in the purse eventually. We don't know where it was before that. There's firearms in the house. Law enforcement shows up. DJ has a gun with him. There's been no explanation of where that firearm was before. Theoretically, he altered a very sensitive scene. Ms. Shea would go on to elicit testimony from DJ that when he was with his father, he saw the gun, perhaps the one used in the shooting, right, this .45. I talked to DJ and I said, hey, man, when's the first time you told anyone about this important revelation that you saw your father with this gun that supposedly was a murder weapon? When did you first tell anyone at all about this? And he said about a month and a half ago, and I talked to Ms. Shea. Almost 2 years later, after the facts are out there, after everyone has engaged in discovery, now, not the morning after when he speaks to Investigator Wallace, now he remembers his dad had a gun. And I have to be suspicious of that statement. And I believe you should be too. Those are civilian witnesses. Everyone else is law enforcement. And as we move forward with law enforcement, I'd like to remind you, and it's unfortunate that there was only 2 people in that apartment that night that knew what happened, and only one of them was able to give a statement. And I would submit to you that nothing you heard from the following witnesses, the law enforcement officials that worked this case to the best of their ability, nothing they said conflicts with what Mr. Walker said. In fact, most of it supports it. So let's go through that now. We have crime scene technician, CST, Jennifer Hall, right? Ms. Hall showed up to the scene. She went to work. She collected evidence. She took photographs. And what do some of those photographs show? Look at the defendant's exhibit. They show a sign of struggle. They show the bath mats disheveled. They show the air conditioner, the thermostat cover broken off, laying right in the area where this altercation supposedly happened. She told you about a pair of women's underwear found in the kitchen. And Ms. Shea is saying she may have just woke up, like people just leave their underwear in the kitchen, but isn't it more likely that when Mr. Walker returned home, there was food on the stove, you can see that, the TV was still on, you can see that. Doesn't it coincide with his story that eventually after dinner, after they talked, that she wanted to engage in sexual activity and the pivotal moment came, when he knew there was no longer any way to hide what he had done, his infidelity. There was nowhere to run anymore, and things boiled over. We don't know how long they argued. We don't know what they said. We know Investigator Wallace didn't go and talk to any of the other people in the apartment, or at least the state with their burden of proof didn't elicit that testimony in this small quadplex. She told you that she collected gun boxes from a closet where Mr. Walker said Ms. Levine went to retrieve a firearm. I'm going to go ahead and get this point out now. Guns work for anyone. She wants to make this straight. Oh, it was Mr. Walker's gun. It was Ms. Levine. We know there's guns in the house. We know that the guns are kept in the closet. Mr. Walker indicated that she went to the closet and retrieved a gun. There's no censor that says, oh, you're not Mr. Walker. I'm not going to let you use me. Ms. Levine knew how to use firearms. And just because it was a 9mm or 45, a semi-automatic is a semi-automatic, they work the same way. Ms. Hall stated that there was suspected soot on the nightcap that Ms. Levine was wearing. It indicates close range. It's exactly what Mr. Walker said, right? She took pictures of that. She noted it in her report. But what she failed to notice, when I spoke to the medical examiner, I said, hey, you can look at the pictures. There's some blood underneath Ms. Levine's fingernails. I said, hey, did you do any scrapings? Did you look for DNA? Did you see if Mr. Walker's DNA was or wasn't underneath her fingernails? She did not do that, and that was her responsibility. And it's not her responsibility to collect evidence that is inculpatory, tending to suggest that the defendant committed the act. It's her job to collect all of the evidence and let you decide. And there has been a vast a vast failure in order to bring you all the evidence here today. We're going to talk about Ms. Waller, Investigator Wallace, here in a second. We're going to get to her first investigation, okay? But I do want you to take note that the defense introduced 3 exhibits, I believe, with some cameras, right? And I asked, hey, you know, I know that there may have been some dispute about whether or not they recorded, who knows? Did you ever look into it? Would have been nice to figure out a timeline, hear the arguments, hear a gunshot. She didn't even look into cameras. This world is surveilled 24/7. They have a camera from middle school across the street. They made sure to go get that one, but the cameras that are screwed into a light bulb on the front porch they didn't look into, they have the burden. They failed to investigate properly in this instance, and they failed to provide possibly exculpatory evidence that would benefit Mr. Walker. So let's talk about Investigator Ashley Wallace. I think she's doing her best, but I also think it's very apparent this is her first investigation. I'm not trying to disparage her. Like I said, it's a tough job. Police work is hard, they're underfunded, they're overworked. But for her first investigation as the lead, Investigator Wallace spent how long on the scene? 10 minutes. That's her testimony. There's no CAD reports, there's no police reports and where she was on the scene and her badge number and all that stuff. She told you herself, she showed up and she spent 10 minutes. She wasn't aware of a lot of the basic facts that you heard. How Dale Jr. had a gun and she thought it was in the closet, right? She wasn't aware of the developments that happened that night. 10 minutes on the scene, 10 minutes to develop an idea of what happened, 10 minutes to let things develop, 10 minutes. And then she delegates. So what does she do? She focuses on the statements of Lyric and the statements of DJ, and in that moment, she makes up her mind. In that moment, she says, this is what happened, and I'm going to fit the rest of the facts into my narrative. And she continued to do so throughout this investigation. She spoke to both kids right after, right? And she noted, and this is something I found interesting, she said, yeah, DJ was both hesitant and emotional. I asked her this question, safe to say he was hesitant, emotional? It's like, would you classify that as reluctant? Said, oh, no. She didn't have any hesitation to apply that term to Mr. Walker, right? The same emotions, hesitant, emotional, traumatic experience. On one hand, DJ's gone through a lot, and he has. I'm not trying to make light of that, but she doesn't afford the same liberty to Mr. Walker. He's reluctant. He's got something to hide. It's a dual standard that she's employing because she already has the answers that she's trying to get to. She's not trying to work towards the answer. She has it. She's working backwards. She learned that, again, Miss Lee owned firearms. She knew how to use them. And as I previously stated, she mistakenly believed that the gun collected that night came from the closet, right? Where the boxes came, instead of from DJ's possession. And who knows where before that, right? She confirmed that DJ never said that he stated he saw his dad with the gun the night before. Pretty important information that he remembers 2 years later that the state is now relying on, right? They made a big point to put up on the PowerPoint. So we move on, she makes some summary conclusions, and what does she rely on? I asked her, you relied on the trajectory, the lack of stiffening, the lack of soot, right? And she said, yes. Here's the thing. We later learned she had a simple conversation instead of jumping to conclusions with the medical examiner and the crime scene technician. She would have learned that there was an explanation for the lack of stiffening and soot due to what is called an intermediary, right? That's the hair, that's the wig, that's the shower cap, 3 of them, in fact. Most telling is that she had to agree with me when I said, hey, you're now aware of the crime scene technician's findings, because I don't even think she knew here today, years later. She said, I asked, if there's soot, that indicates that the round was fired from clothes, right? She's like, yeah. It's like, wouldn't that be consistent with Mr. Walker's story? And she said, yes. The investigator is agreeing that the facts, that the forensic evidence that the state attorney is trying to characterize as inculpatory goes along with what the story he said. Is it reasonable to believe his story? Yes. Facts line up to it, according to the own investigator. If his story is reasonable, the verdict is not guilty. But she'd have the opportunity to speak with Mr. Walker. And Ms. Shea, again, the government is asking you to look at his story and say, it couldn't happen like that. Couldn't have happened like that. It could have. We already know that part of it matches from the investigator, right? It could have happened like that. But she wants you to say, because the forensic evidence doesn't match, which it does, it couldn't have happened like that, so you should convict him. All the while not telling you what she thinks happened. The government doesn't know what happened. And they expect you, it probably happened. Probably isn't good enough. It may have happened. May have happened isn't good enough. They have failed to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt what actually happened, on top of the fact that Mr. Walker's story is credible. They've taught investigative tactics, and I get it. I think that she's trying to put him at ease. She said, I'm not making any generalizations here. Women are impulsive. They can be emotional, right? And she may have meant those things. She may have just tried to put him at ease. But she stated that Mr. Walker was wholly cooperative. Ms. Shea asked that question. He was cooperative, yeah, but also somehow reluctant. At times ignoring that he too had just been, as I stated, through a traumatic experience where he lost his wife. He now sat in handcuffs in an orange jumpsuit, accused of her murder. And she wants to say, oh, well, you know, he was reluctant, but also cooperative. Despite his condition, Mr. Walker voluntarily offered his side of the story. He offered an explanation of what happened, something the state has failed to do during this trial. Mr. Walker was not faithful to his wife. It's not a crime, but he had to admit that. And he had to admit it to law enforcement. More importantly, he had to admit it to his wife, his partner of 20 years, that he wasn't faithful. And he had to do that because of the way he was feeling. And it makes sense. There's dinner on the stove. The television's on. He didn't get home till 1 or 2. We don't know what she was doing the next day. Maybe she waited up on him. Maybe she's a night owl. They want to pretend like everyone lives their life the same 8 to 5. People stay up all night. People sleep during the day. There's been no evidence submitted to you that it's strange for them to be up that late. Maybe they were arguing for an hour or 2 before this incident happened. Maybe it came to a culmination when Miss Levine went and retrieved that gun because she was so frustrated with the things that were being said. We don't know any of this. The state wants you to believe, oh, Mr. Walker's story doesn't add something. We don't know what happened with it. What he said doesn't make sense. So Mr. Walker comes clean about his infidelity, and if you notice, he uses the same language. And I'm just pointing it out, guys. When he talks about his infidelity, he says, I knew I fucked up. Fucked up. It's a phrase he continues to repeat. It's a phrase that he says on the heels of a conversation that he had that resulted in a tragic accident, right? So what does he do? He comes clean, right? He thinks I may have something I have to tell her. I want to get a test. I want to start over. And he expresses his desire not to pass this on to his wife. And he somehow hopes that by being honest, he's going to gain her forgiveness. And unfortunately, we know now that that wasn't the case. Ms. Walker stated that during her, again, justifiable rage at the unfaithfulness of her longtime partner, Ms. Levine goes to the closet where we know the guns are kept and retrieves the gun. Ms. Walker stated, I tried to leave. She wouldn't let me. He then says, eventually, Ms. Levine surrenders the firearm. He removes the magazine. He holds both objects. She said in his left hand, watch the video. I didn't get that. He says he removes the magazine. He holds both clunky objects in his hand as he embraces his wife. If you choose, watch the interview again, because I think this is where things kind of go off the rails. Investigator Chambly is there. I think it's very clear why he was there. It's because Investigator Wallace is engaging. It's her first investigation as the lead investigator. He's there to supervise. He's there to monitor her. He's there to make sure everything's done right.
Objection, facts not in evidence.
Sustained. I invite you to look at the demeanor of Investigator Chambly. I invite you to look when Ashley Wallace looks over to him and says, anything else? And he interjects. He interjects, and watch how he goes about talking to Mr. Walker, right? Watch how he ignores, and the state ignores, Mr. Walker's clear statement where he says, I backed up and the gun went off. I backed up and the gun went off. Yet when Investigator Chambly does this physical recreation, right, he makes sure, and your hands were behind his head, they were behind her head, they're behind her head, right? They're behind her head. And now the state is going to make this inference, and that was when the shot was fired. We disagreed on a lot, but this is where I do agree, right? I agree that it's absolutely not possible with the trajectory presented by Dr. Lopez Morel that the firearm went off and was behind her head and caused that wound. I agree, but that's not what he said. That's not what he said. That's the conclusion that Investigator Chambly wanted because it made sense with the narrative. And watch him. As soon as he gets that, he sits back down. He's satisfied. He got what he wanted, but it's not what Daryl said. I backed up and the gun went off. I backed up and the gun went off. I backed up and the gun went off. She also said she grabbed the gun. Guns do not fire for the most part unless the trigger is pulled. Ms. Shea wants you to believe that triggers aren't pulled on accident, that something could have bumped the firearm and engaged that mechanism. She grabbed the gun. Even if she pushed him, even if she did this, is there not a chance that perhaps maybe she did the trigger? If we know it was fired close, there's sooting that indicates that it was fired close. It's reasonable to believe that his story is true. And if his story is true or even reasonable, he's not guilty. The state has the burden. Please do not forget that throughout your deliberations. He goes on to say, being 100% honest, you can watch it, you can test the veracity of that statement. And he ends the interview expressing his concern and seemingly his regret. He said, I should have stayed. Should have stayed. And I agree with him, but I don't think that would have precluded what he was scared of, and that's this right now. It's the government not believing him, it's law enforcement not believing him, but the beauty of the system is that you are here. You are here to hear him, you are here to hear his story, and you are here to hold the government accountable. So we go to Dr. Lorraine Lopez Morel. She's a scientist, doctor, and the reason why I say she's a good scientist is when confronted with evidence and information contrary to her initial conclusions, she modified them, right? In any report, she indicated initially that there was an absence of stippling or soot, but when I asked her, hey, what about intermediaries? She explained to you that it would be reasonable that these things would not be present if there was some sort of intermediary, a shower cap, a wig, braids, all of which were present. She ultimately concluded that the range of fire was indeterminate. Going right back to the state has no idea where Mr. Walker was standing, where Ms. Levine was standing, how far away the gun was, where they were positioned. They have proven none of this to you. And the physical evidence does nothing but back up Mr. Walker's version of the events. She made it a point to say that in her world, the absence of evidence isn't evidence, but in this world, it is. So let's talk about the lack of evidence. Ladies and gentlemen, it's overwhelming. The lack of witnesses, the lack of investigation. I mentioned earlier how hard it would have been to go knock on doors and see if there's any yelling when the gunshot happened. The lack of evidence from the state that suggests anything goes against Mr. Walker there. Conflicts of evidence. Not necessarily a conflict per se, but I thought it was interesting, DJ's son revelation, this thing that puts the gun in his dad's hand the night before that he never told anybody until today, yesterday. The disconnect between the investigator, the crime scene technician, the medical examiner, who apparently all independently worked and not once collaborated and shared their findings, seemingly coming to different conclusions. And then there's the evidence, right? States failed, reiterating this, but they failed to present any evidence that disputes Mr. Walker's version of events, simply stating that you don't believe him, you shouldn't. The evidence itself supports his version. I already mentioned, look back at the pictures, the dinner on the stove, the TV's on, the signs of a struggle, the firearms in the bedroom closet, Ms. Levine's state of undress that clearly indicates that she was anticipating or about to engage in sexual activity. Tragic, single gunshot wound at an angle that suggests non-intentional discharge and stood on her nightcap, which correlates with the distance he exemplified before investigator Shanley interjected himself. It's a jilted wife who's frustrated with a husband who wasn't faithful, and a husband frustrated with himself who decided to come clean. A gun introduced into a volatile situation and a tragic act. Ms. Shea explained the elements of second-degree murder. She explained the elements of manslaughter. But what she has not explained is any motive, any intent to kill or carry out any action otherwise. What she hasn't explained is how there's a scenario in which a husband who was just with his kids, cleaning out a car, and his kids stated everything was good, how he turned into a killer. Humans want finality, as I stated. They want answers. Sometimes life doesn't provide them. And in this world, in this legal system that we build, these institutions of justice that we rely on to keep our society running, it's the government's obligation, and they failed that obligation here today. We must hold them accountable. It's as simple as that. It's not going to be easy. We want answers. There's none here. We talked about liberty being at stake. We talked about the role of the jury and how it's your job to hold the government accountable and the system of Mr. Walker accountable. So we've been together for a bit now. Monday, yesterday, all day, today, this morning, and this is the last time I'm going to get to question. In a minute, Ms. Shea is going to get up here on behalf of the government. She's going to tell you about why all the things that I say don't matter, and that you should find him guilty because things don't really add up. You should find him guilty because they had some spats in the past. You should find him guilty because something probably happened. That's not how this works here. I always do this, but I honestly have done a lot of these. I do thank you for being here. This is not a fun case. You have been attentive while you're watching things, I've been watching you. And I do sincerely appreciate and thank you. But I implore you, as I speak to you for the last time, be critical. Be critical. Think about what I would say when she comes up here, talks about why everything I did say doesn't matter. And the judge is going to read you some jury instructions a little bit. He's going to talk to you about the witnesses, what you consider, what you can't. He's going to tell you about lesser included offenses. He's going to tell you about sub-questions that you may need to answer. And while it's important for you to understand them, I argue that you should not use them. Carefully deliberate. Go over the facts. Go over what the government has actually presented to you instead of their reliance on the negatives. It's their burden of proof. They have not carried that burden of proof. Mr. Walker's story is reasonable, backed up by physical evidence. Mr. Walker is not guilty, and I think you should find him as such. Thank you for your time this morning and all of this week.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Michelle, you may rebut.
Let me be very clear about one thing Mr. Brown incorrectly stated to you. He says that the state hasn't shown any intent or motive. I do not have to prove intent or motive to prove a crime was committed and the defendant committed the crime, okay? I don't have to prove intent or motive. Nothing in the instructions or the law the judge is going to give you says that I have to do that. So do not place that burden on me, because then you would be not following the law. Now, he's also, just a couple of things that he brought up about the investigation, the overwhelming lack of evidence. He brought up the fact that there was no DNA collected or no DNA tested. And it's a vast failure because there's no DNA for you to consider. Well, the defendant and the victim both lived in this house. Their DNA is going to be everywhere. Both of them are going to have DNA on them from each other. The house, all the items in the house are going to have their DNA on it. The cameras, claiming that Investigator Wallace didn't look at it. If you remember, she was interviewing the witnesses at the sheriff's office. Other investigators were at the house conducting the search warrant. The cameras themselves were recovered. And as she's given information about all the stuff that's in the case, there was no other video evidence to submit. There was video of the car leaving that you can't see inside the car to see who's in the car. But if there was a video from inside the house or a video that captured the sound, obviously that would be evidence the state would produce to you. And she said that there wasn't any of that. Talking about the difference in the interviews between Daryl Sr. and Daryl Jr. And Mr. Brown brought up that, that the younger was emotional, and therefore you should also consider that his statement was reluctantly made. Well, I submit to you, his statement is taken 30 minutes, a couple hours after this incident happens. He's 18 years old. He just saw his mother die in the hallway floor, and he knows that his father's responsible for it. Investigator Wallace didn't consider that reluctant, but cross that with the defendant's statement that 6 days later, that he's giving not because he came to the sheriff's office willingly, he's giving because he was caught somewhere else and arrested for this. They are in very different positions, Daryl Sr. and Daryl Jr., and their motivations at the time they're giving their statements are also very different. The defendant waived his right to remain silent, gave a statement to law enforcement, said he wanted to talk. And as I said, he talked because he got caught. He didn't call the police. He didn't call 911 to help her. He didn't leave the house after that traumatic experience and then drive himself to the sheriff's office to explain what happened. He got in his car and fled the jurisdiction. Halfway across the state is where they find him. And he doesn't talk until after he gets back. Now, Mr. Brown points out that the state doesn't present an alternative theory about what happened in the house. And I submit to you that we can't, because there's only two people that know what happened, the defendant and the victim. She obviously can't tell us anything. But if you remember, Investigator Wallace said it in the interview, Mr. Brown said it in his opening statement, that there's three sides to the truth. Her truth, his truth, and then the truth. Well, the truth is not hard to remember. Most people, when they want to tell the truth, they have no problem doing it. They have no trouble remembering any of it. It tumbles right on out. It's human nature. When you have the truth and you want to share the truth, that you willingly and freely give it. And children are the best example of that. They'll come out with the hard truths and the most obvious and sometimes the most embarrassing moments and ways. But Children are also the best example of this because when they don't want to tell the truth, they're very reluctant to do so. And that's usually because it's something they don't want to tell you. And that plays forward into adulthood as well. I submit to you the defendant's reluctance in that interview is not because he doesn't know the truth. It's because he doesn't want to tell the truth. And thus what he said isn't the truth. Remember, you have to consider the circumstances of what happened, the circumstances of what brought them in that place. The claim that the victim is the one that brought the gun from the room is not consistent with what was shown in the house. It's not consistent with the testimony of Lyric and of DJ. It's not even necessarily consistent with what the defendant said himself because he was so reluctant to even talk about where the gun came from or what gun it was. Chambered. That can't be true either. Something happened in that kitchen. There isn't evidence of a struggle in the house, and the defense put in photographs of the air conditioner thermostat with the top broken off and the rugs askew. The shoes are askew in the kitchen. Her panties are in the kitchen. A live round is in the kitchen. A live round doesn't just pop out of the gun by itself. It has to pop out because someone worked the mechanism of the gun. And that's in the kitchen where it would appear it started. The defendant claimed he took out the magazine, but nobody sees him pick up the magazine. Everybody sees him pick up the gun and go. And the most important part is the defendant said that the gun went off behind her head. Mr. Brown claims that that's not what he said. But if you go back to the interview at 12:47:58 or right at 12:48, and I played this clip for you, Chambliss says, "Did you still have a hold of her when the gun went off, or were you completely separated?" And the defendant said, "Definitely, like holding her, like so she can like stop." And he's gesturing. He is demonstrating where his hands were when the gun went off. And then Chambliss continues and clarifies and asks him about it being behind his head. And he says, yes. And it is consistent with the soot on the nightcap because the gun does go off, but the gun goes off on her nightcap in the front of her head, not behind it, which is completely different from what the defendant says. And that's because he does not want to tell you what really happened. She grabbed the gun, is what he told Lyric, what Lyric said yesterday that the defendant said. DJ said that the defendant said that he reached for the gun, or that she reached for the gun. Why is there a gun to begin with? Why is there even a gun to begin with? I submit to you the circumstances that the defendant puts forth are not true. Why is there a gun to begin with? We've already established that she didn't bring his gun from her room. Why would there be a gun? The defendant says, Mr. Brown said of the defendant that we focused on his actions after the fact, the actions of a desperate and terrified man. And I submit to you, maybe, but those are also actions that are consistent with consciousness of guilt. The things that people do when they know they are responsible for something they shouldn't be, or things that they know they did wrong. Leaving the scene, taking the gun, refusing to answer the question. Remember, it took him 5 minutes just to say it was a 45. And then, he would say it was his gun, and it took him 5 minutes to say it was a 45. It took him forever to pull out where he got rid of the gun. And then he was still not even specific about that. And I submit to you that things didn't happen the way the defendant represents in his interview. And I can't tell you how it did. But one thing is 100% for sure. If it didn't happen the way the defendant says it did, it was not an accident. The defendant's story is that this was an accident. This wasn't an accident. This was a marital dispute that got violent. The defendant introduced a gun into the situation, and then his wife was shot and killed with it. He's the only one left standing. He's the responsible party for this. You have all the evidence you need to convict him of second-degree murder. Thank you.
We have a verdict in the state of Florida. Jacksonville, Florida, the defendant Darrell Walker, he is accused of shooting and killing his wife during an argument after she found out that he had contracted an STD with another woman. Second-degree murder is the top charge. Let's go into the courtroom and watch together.
All right.
Everyone, please be seated behind the record. The flag states here the council, here with this council. Members of the jury understand your recent verdict. Is that correct? Are you the foreperson, ma'am? What's your name, please? Ms. Smith? Okay, thank you. Will you hand that to court security for me? Thank you. All right, we'll see council real quick, please.
Okay, sidebar there. We know what has happened is we're being told the jury foreperson did not date the verdict form. So the judge is going to send them back to just do that. That'll take a few seconds. Ashley Bargain Quest watching along with this jury. This is he says it was an accident. He said his wife found out that he had an STD. He said it was it was late at night. They were in bed. She, as he said, got frisky. He said, told her that he had an STD. She got a gun. This chaotic scene, as the defense attorney framed it in closing arguments, ensued, and she ended up dead. Second degree is the top charge. Oh, I've been told that the verdict form's in good shape. Let's go back in.
Ms. Smith, you'll hand that to them, please, ma'am. Let's have the record flag state here with council and the deal with this council. All right, the verdict appears to be upon the board. Madam Clerk, please publish the verdict. Offer, please stand and accept the jury's verdict.
In the circuit court in and for Escambia County, Florida, State of Florida plaintiff versus Daryl Jerome Walker, defendant. Clerk number 1723 CF 004959A, Division E. Verdict: we, the jury, find as follows as to the count charged in the information. Guilty of second-degree murder as charged. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant actually possess a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, did the defendant personally discharge a firearm? Yes. During the commission of the offense, and as a result of the discharge of the firearm, was death caused to Sheena Levine? Yes. So say we all this 21st day of November, foreperson juror Heather Smith.
Any request of counsel to say?
No, Your Honor.
Defense? No. All right. If y'all have a seat, please. No. Deputy.
All right, y'all. That's pretty much it. Wasn't a whole lot to the case, y'all. It wasn't a whole lot to the case. I thought the most pivotal moments was when the kids testified. That's about it. So he was found guilty. I have an article that from the let me pull this up right quick. We got about 15 minutes before we start the next live. Let me pull this article up and read it to you. Excuse me, from the Office of the State Attorney General. And it talks more about
you pulling up articles and shit. They never should have taught you niggas how to read.
That's a very ignorant statement, Trey. That's not cute. And man, we're gonna need you to get out of the WWE. Okay, just get out of it, man. Get out of it. My God. This is a press release, November 21st, 2025, which was last Friday. Or not last, was it? No, about 2 weeks ago, Friday. On November 21st, 2025, Gerald Jerome Walker Sr. was sentenced to life. He got life. Imprisoned by Circuit Court Judge John Simon following his conviction for second-degree murder with a firearm by an Escambia County jury. In the early morning hours but we know this, but I'm going to read it. In the early morning hours of November 22nd, 2023, Walker shot and killed his wife, Sheena Marie, I think they said her name was Levine, in her home. Immediately after the shooting, Walker called his children and said, "I fucked up," and grabbed the gun. Walker took the firearm from the scene and fled to Mariana, where he was arrested the following day. During the trial, the children testified about finding their mother on the floor in the hallway of the home and the statements made by Walker. The firearm used was Walker's .45 caliber handgun. After his arrest, and see, why he had no gun charge? I guess that's muted at this point. He should have had a gun charge because he wasn't supposed to have it. After his arrest, Walker gave an interview to law enforcement, which was played at trial. While claiming the shooting was an accident, physical evidence located on the scene conflicted with his story. The most significant conflict came from his claim that the gun went off while he had his arms around the victim. The autopsy showed the entry and exit wounds on the top of the victim's head. Wow. Walker has eight. This is why I wanted to read this, y'all. It talks about his bogus history. Walker has 8 prior felony convictions and had been released from prison on May 29, 2022, just shy of 18 months prior to the murder. Consequently, he was sentenced to life in state prison as a prison releasee reoffender. The investigation and arrest were made by the Escambia County Sheriff's Office. Assistant State Attorney Amy Shea, prosecuted the case on behalf of Ginger Bowden Madden, State Attorney for the first blah, 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 blah. I must say, though, he looks like a totally different person than when he got arrested, but prison will do that to you. So, anywho, that's it. That's all for that. Natasha, what you laughing at, girl? But yeah, so that's it for that, y'all. We'll be back in about 10 minutes with live trial coverage from the Brian Walsh case, which is actually going on right now. Okay. So thank y'all for supporting this live stream. Shout out to Mad and Money Boy. Thank y'all for supporting.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah. Thank y'all so much for joining. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll be back in about 10 minutes with the live coverage on the Brian Walsh case. With that being said, y'all have a beautiful, blessed day. Trey is teaching us to read. Oh, okay. Trey, yeah, he ignorant. Thank you, Lady Marie. Thank you, boo.
And I was late because Money Boy threw a wild moon party last night.
He threw what?
A wild moon party.
What the hell is that?
Oh man, we were bouncing on the moon, man. We were bouncing on the moon.
Money Boy went live last night.
Yeah.
Why wasn't that live scheduled before when I looked? When did you schedule your live, sir?
You responded back and you sent me this morning's link in the link I sent you last night. You should be paying attention.
I always send the link in the last link that last message that somebody sent me. I always send the link that way.
Well, yeah, that was last night when I sent it to hell.
What did y'all what was the live about?
We got shut down by the man because we was playing moon content, but it was somebody else's documentary, but we got shut down by the man. They took one video down on Pettigoat and then they just stopped the video on the main channel. So I ended it. No, I ended. We did a video, a reaction video to
some kind of fight.
Yeah.
Trey, you stay getting in trouble.
I ain't getting in trouble, really. I appeared, and if not, it's just a warning anyway. Fuck that video. It's on Pettigoat. Yeah. They ain't happened to the main channel. That's all that matter.
That was one of those warnings that keep us playing music. We ain't worrying about it.
Damn.
Yeah, that's all it was. But it's different when it's the music and the audio and the visual, so it hit quicker.
Yeah. I gotta go back. So the live is not up anymore.
No, it's still up. It ain't I haven't had to, it's still processing, so I hadn't had to cut out what's gonna be claimed. But it still we still had a little talking because we did it. That was one of the things that I appealed to too, because I'm like, we definitely stopped for like 10 minutes at a time and was talking shit. So we was giving commentary and pointing out shit going on the screen. We didn't just play it just straight through.
Y'all probably was acting a damn fool, to be honest.
No, it was the copyright material.
All right, y'all. We'll be back. 5 minutes, I guess. Trey. No, man. I'll ask you later. All right, y'all. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great A blessed, beautiful day, and I'll see y'all in a few minutes. Y'all be good, okay?
Brian Walsh. Coming up next.